throughout the nation and around the globe. From his heart to yours, it's Dear James Live, bringing you intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, Dearjames, and together with the unseen Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. Welcome, Kiki, and remember to like, share, follow, subscribe. All of this helps the channel and helps the show continue to grow and expand. So I just want to put that out there. And then we jump in because, like I keep saying, there is so much going on. Big energies. Big. So let's just jump right into our main energies. Welcome, Alicia. We have double sevens. We have double nines. And somewhat sandwiched in there is this beautiful 25 about innocence. So we have double army, correct discipline to go about everything, knowing that we have everything we need with correct discipline. We have the force, we have the opportunities, the people, and the seen, the unseen working with us. And that double nines, small restraint, surrender. And nines are about completion as well, and sevens are about the fulfillment of God's word, the foundation of God's word. So this divine fulfillment, we have this beautiful, restraint, surrender, keep surrendering to your soul. And then we have 25. So before I jump in, we're going to just quickly touch, because there's so much astrologically, as above, so below going on, and from the unseen. Hexagram 25, Carrie Hone at cafeosoul.com. Its action is to open. All of this is happening for us to open our consciousness, open to the new world before us, the new energies, the new age, the new era. Well, it's hidden influence, 53, development, flower. So it's for our development, so that we flower. And its underlining cause, 46, pushing upward. Think of that beautiful flower stem coming up through the crack of a sidewalk or something. It's pushing upward, ascend. So this is all about our ascension. And there are two beautiful quotes. When you don't know what cannot be done, you will accomplish great things. That's just about, it's like say yes, and that there's nothing that's not possible. So when you don't know what cannot be done, you will accomplish great things. And the second is by Ishikawa Takubuko. Like a kite cut from the string, lightly the soul of my youth has taken flight. So again, innocence. It's the beauty of innocence that we're working with here. So now let's jump back to our astrological influences. And these we have two. So we have Venus on the 4th of July. There was a lot going on the 4th of July. Venus was conjunct Uranus at that anaretic degree in Taurus, 29 degrees. Then Venus, later that day, Venus entered Gemini at 0 degrees, another powerful degree. And then on the 4th, Neptune stationed retrograde at 2 degrees Aries. Then on the 7th, that was Monday, Uranus entered Gemini. It's the final outer planet to move, and we've been talking about this in last week's show. So we're going to be piggybacking and expanding on last week's show about Uranus in Gemini. It comes in like a wrecking ball, and about clarity and a bridge to the past, ... future. So all of this is going on. Then, coming up, tomorrow, is the Capricorn full moon. And then on the 13th, which I believe is Sunday, Saturn stations retrograde at 1 degree Aries. So the two main themes for all of these astrological energies, Uranus and Gemini, the Saturn and Neptune retrograde, and the Capricorn full moon, turning tables. Well, I want to show you why. Here's the Capricorn full moon astrology chart. And there was, again, the center of the chart just said to me immediately, welcome, Olivia, this turning tables. And then they said, the end of an era. So turning tables to change a situation so that you now have an advantage over someone who previously had an advantage over you. reverse one's position relative to someone else, especially by turning a position of disadvantage into one of advantage. To change from being in a weaker position in relation to someone else to being in a stronger position. This going back to tidy up, so Neptune and Saturn are in Aries. They're going to retrograde back to Pisces, that final degree. There's these certain aspects here where we're going back to tidy up, to finish up before we officially move forward. The Capricorn energies of this full moon, it's all about turning tables, turning the tides, turning the tables, turning tables, the end of an era. So, and let me just bring that in, because the first thing from the unseen they said, it's that Cher song, we've had it a few times now, if I could turn back time. In this instance, what they mean is this Neptune Saturn going back into the very end of Pisces. Jupiter and Pluto will retrograde, but they're going to stay in their new signs when they retrograde. So Aquarius for Pluto and Cancer for Jupiter. But Uranus in November 7th, it will retrograde back into Taurus, and then move forward. Everything will officially. So these three, this Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus, that are going to go back into the previous signs and then move forward. If I could turn back time, and they said, the unseen said, a momentary pause. So we're going to have this, well, things are progressing. We're going to have what feels like a momentary pause. Within that pause, a clear direction, a clear choice emerges. This turning tables. It's going to be quite, they're saying quite prolific. Like this is going to be, pin the tail on the donkey, an epic window of time between now and when these planets all officially go forward, which will be by early and by spring of 2026. So if I could turn back time, it's not that you would, it's about, and that's what some are doing on the main stage, right? On the world stage, they're trying to turn back time or freeze time or hold time, go back to 1900, if you will. That's not the moral of the story. And the way the unseen is saying this to all of us is, if I could turn back time, what would I look at? What would I do different? How would I be different? And to take advantage, because it's going to be prolific. Not to maintain, but so when we move forward, I have the benefit and the grace of that consciousness, that awareness. I'm harnessing that wisdom because I've taken the time to look at it. And again, there's always a choice, and there's always, let's call it two trains, two boats. There are going to be those that keep cleaving and clinging to the past. Okay, that's your choice. And there'll be all of those just advancing, this beautiful advance. So if I could turn back time with these Saturn, Neptune, Uranus retrogrades that are going to be coming up, and we get a sneak peek. We're going to get a sneak peek here with Uranus now just moving into Gemini. A momentary pause, a clear direction or choice. Yes, Alicia, I'm not going to... Alicia has a very funny... Well, I can think of an donkey to pin quite a few things on. Yes, however, everything is divine and neutral, and everything is purposeful. And we talk a lot about how bearing witness can be painful. Going through this process can be painful. However, it is a reflection of our collective choices. And thereby, with this opportunity to go back and finish up this turning of tables, because again, the unseen, as above, so below, they're advancing forward, not backward, forward. And thereby, where you may have been at a disadvantage, turning tables. So, and ever so quickly, we're gonna go to our main theme very quick. Now we're gonna stick with the astrology for a minute. I said for them to guide me, they're guiding me. So, Remember this chart from last week, and this is the chart for Gemini in Aquarius. It enters Aquarius, and we spoke about that beautiful blue triangle. So the red looked like a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, and what comes in the shockwaves, that what's unpredictable. Uranus in Gemini, and Uranus higher mind, expect the unexpected, shock and awe, all these things. So we have, and what are these things that are flying under the radar, if you will, because a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber absorbs radar. It goes undetected until, of course, what it's done, what its mission was, if you will, is realized and experienced. But it was about the triangle, and it was about standing on this precipice, and how literally through that beautiful triangle, this mini grand trine, there's this other world, there's this whole new world, there's this opportunity for, the ideal, the utopia of everything. Well, this then comes from astrologer Juliana McCarthy from etherealculture.com. The Astrology of July 2025, the Triangle of Revolution, Uranus in Gemini chart. July represents a major turning point astrologically and one of the most significant moments in human history. On July 7th, Uranus enters Gemini and trines Pluto. Trine is a harmonious aspect in astrology, while forming a perfect sextile, another harmonious aspect, to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. The rarity of this configuration cannot be overstated. I'm calling it, Juliana McCarthy is calling it, the Triangle of Revolution. Starting now and for years to come, we're undergoing seismic shifts. There's that whole stealth bomber, shock and awe, thunder, shock waves, unpredictability. So seismic shifts both personally and collectively. This is a time of great karmic reckoning and creative rebirth. Because again, remember, everything we're putting out is already coming back to us, magnified. For some reason, this may feel exhilarating, like a long-awaited breakthrough. Which train are you on? For others, it could feel disorienting or jarring as unresolved lessons erupt and demand action. Where have you been, the ostrich burying your head in the sand? Where are you cleaving to something that's gone? From the chaos, clarity is rising, piercing through dishonesty, materialism, greed, and the indoctrination of a broken society. When Saturn and Neptune conjoining at the 1st degree of the zodiac, with them conjoining at that 1st degree, we're witnessing the collapse of old systems and structures as new collective visions begin to emerge and take their place. And it's important, those turning tables, it's important to recognize when you're wielding power in a negative, air quotes, negative manner, it brings about its own collapse. It's not sustainable, and it's certainly not sustainable because it isn't 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. The era and the time, the energies are different. This isn't Piscean, patriarchal, ego-minded. It's Aquarian, matriarchal, soul-centered, heart-centered driven. So these old paradigm structures, ways of being, don't compute. They don't, the new system doesn't recognize them, doesn't go, doesn't belong. It's round peg, square hole. So, but we're seeing, it's like we see people trying to jam that round peg into a square hole to make it fit. And they're showing me in the I think it's 2015, remake of Cinderella from Disney, and how, they go about the village or the country with the glass slipper, and they're just trying to ram that glass slipper onto every maiden in the land, or the maidens are trying to ram the slipper on. It doesn't fit. It only fits the one it fits. Well, these new energies, they are what they are. They only fit. They only accept what is correct, what's real and right. And this is our opportunity to get right with the era, with the age. because it's turning tables, the end of an era. So etherealculture.com, we continue. Meanwhile, Jupiter in Cancer is squaring, that's a frictional aspect in astrology. We're squaring Saturn, challenging our shared values while reminding us that compassion is our anchor. Family, close friends, community, and self-care can steady us amid these sweeping tides of change. The revolution ahead is not just political or technological, it's spiritual. It's a spiritual reckoning. It's a spiritual revolution. The other things, political, technological, all these things, they're a byproduct of what's happening as above, so below, energetically, spiritually. The real war we're fighting is against apathy, greed, delusion, and disconnection. We're being called to summon courage, cultivate vigilance, and take risks that align with our most authentic yearnings. Our heart, our soul source connection. The future is rapidly revealing itself, and we're ready to lead with integrity, truth, empathy, and the unshakable knowledge that we're all part of the same fabric of love. From here, we may feel like the wind is finally in our sails. We're joining forces like never before to dismantle a corrupted system. This is that purple wave we spoke about. It's hard work, overwhelming at times, but we can keep expanding to hold it all without losing heart. This is the moment when we begin the process of forging a more enlightened world, one that honors and protects the earth and all beings, where we recognize the sacredness of every tree, ant, breath, cloud, child, and broken heart. With urgency, we can remember that everything we see is us, and that our primary job is to heal until we can easily generate love for all. And this is one of our beautiful first quotes that this inspired me, and it reminded me of: a rising tide lifts all boats. It's a proverb that was popularized by President John F. Kennedy in the 1960s. But a rising tide lifts all boats. So when we act with empathy and compassion and love and, consciousness, and again, matriarchal, Aquarian, it's the inverse of where we've been. It's the soul source connection leading with the purity of the divine masculine in service to it and with it. It's where they unite, but it's an inverse. So we're placing ego, mind, personality, human in the sidecar of that motorcycle, and the divine masculine and the divine feminine, soul source connection, heart, leads. They're together. They're unified. It's an inverse of where we've been. So let's look at our main theme. And these are big. So here, watch what they said was, watch what happens next, exclamation point. And then I heard a blinding light. Now, watch what happens next is pretty self-explanatory. So watch what happens next. It's going to be like, okay, here we go. And how's it all going to play out? And multiple things. It was a blinding light that I kept saying, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? And, our beautiful friend Google. So I've just put in blinding light, and I kept having an image. This is the image that kept coming to me. It's of this bright, massive light coming out of the sky, and the kind of the clouds, if you will, around it parting. And this, just bright light. So this is the image of it. And then in Google, in the Bible, a blinding light is used both literally and metaphorically. The most prominent example is Paul's conversion experience on the road to Damascus, where he was struck blind by a heavenly light. This encounter led to his conversion and transformation. Additionally, Jesus is described as the light of the world, and his teachings can both illuminate and in some cases cause blindness to those who reject his message. In Acts 9:3-9, it describes double nines, describes how Saul, later Paul, was blinded by a bright light from heaven while traveling to Damascus. This light and the subsequent voice of Jesus led to his conversion and transformation. In John 9, Jesus heals a man born blind, demonstrating his role as the light of the world. He uses mud and his saliva and then directs the man to go bathe in the I think it's the lake of Siloam, to restore the man's sight, symbolizing his power to give spiritual insight. This is a spiritual revolution, spiritual insight. In John 9, Jesus says, I have come into this world so that, quote, those who see will become blind. This refers to the idea that those who think they have spiritual understanding might actually be blinded by their own pride or resistance to the truth. It's about the way, the truth. So there's where in essence do we quote scripture, but our heart is devoid. It's the antithesis of the teachings. It's not in alignment. It's not congruent with the way. And yet one espouses to be such. The Bible speaks of people being blinded by sin, materialism, or other worldly desires, preventing them from seeing the truth and God's will. In some passages, like the transfiguration of Jesus in the Gospels, the brilliance of God's glory is described as a light that can be overwhelming and even cause temporary blindness. Light is often associated with revelation, truth, revelation. That's Uranus, thunder, shock and awe, unexpected, unnoticed. This is noticed, obviously, but it's associated with revelation, truth, and understanding. The Bible also connects light with God's presence and glory. So higher octave, again, however you ascribe and whatever your faith, your belief, this is what we're talking about. And then spiritual insight. Just as physical light allows us to see the world around us, spiritual light enables us to understand spiritual truths and God's will. It's the way, not our way. So there's this beauty, and it is this beautiful quote, I am the light of the world. It's John 9. And so, and thereby, and Olivia saying, Jesus spit on dirt to show man was not born of dust. He showed his rejection of that claim. Washing out of his eyes is symbolic to cleanse the claim man was made from dust. Together, the man's eyes were opened to the truth. Exactly, we're opened to this spiritual enlightenment, this truly the way, the word, the way. And thereby, when we connect with our soul source connection, when we connect with our soul, we're connecting with the divine. And that is illuminating. It is not lip service. It is something so for everyone, when we go to church, and so forth, be in alignment with that. I'm reminded there was a story that circulated on social media where there was a new pastor. He sat out front of his new congregation outside of the church, dressed like a homeless person, a beggar. The finery of everyone, of the congregants coming in, all dressed, all shunning him, asking him to leave. All of these things. They sit, they're all excited, for their new pastor. And of course, in from the backside walks the man that was outside, dressed like disheveled, dressed like a homeless person, and stood at the altar, at the front. You hear gasps. The story goes that there was gasps and all this stuff, and all the new pastor said is, it appears we have a lot of work to do. I'll see you next Sunday. Because he wanted the moment to sink in. He wanted them to understand that this new pastor and all of this kind of, on the surface stuff, well, that's all well and good, but that's not coming from the heart. You're not walking the talk. That's this major shift. This major shift is all about walk the talk. The soul leads, the divine. leads. So here's from the unseen. Watch what happens next! Exclamation point. A blinding light. It's happened before. It can certainly happen again. So we talk about that a lot. So now let's look at, and before we move on, I just want to go to our mantra. I am the seeds of change. It is to remember that we are what we are seeking. We are the seeds of change. They're within us. Our divine DNA, which you'll see here in a minute, it's coming up. It's this point of to remember who we are at our center, at our core, our essence. And let me bring that up because it is our key word. So I am the seeds of change, and essence is our key word. And essence, the intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract that determines its character. One could say that our soul or spirit, which is quote unquote unseen, is something abstract that determines its character, our character. The basic or most important idea or quality of something, the individual, real or ultimate nature of something, the most significant element, quality, or aspect of a thing or person. The most significant element, quality, or aspect of human beings, of all creation, is our soul, is the divine, our divine nature, our otherworldly essence. Whatever most sums up the heart and soul of something, its truest, most indispensable qualities. So in this moment, massive change, it is to remember our essence, your essence. It is divine, it is otherworldly, it is most significant, it's the most significant quality, element, aspect of our being. And as in last week's show, align, release, renew. This is where we are because we're getting this moment. If I could turn back time and they're going to finish up business and we're officially forward. But the tables are turning. They're going to turn drastically. And at number 3 from the unseen, they said, peace beckons, purity prevails. And then they went back to a blinding light. So one could say, beauty pageants and children and we espouse for this peace, world peace. Peace beckons, calls us forward. Peace beckons. Purity prevails. Because embodied and imbued at the basis of love and peace, any positive aspect, energy, is purity. What's the purity of my intentions? What's the purity of my choices? What's the purity of my soul? So while peace beckons, it calls us forward. It keeps us wanting, coming that direction. Purity prevails. And this number 3, it's the Trinity. It's the 3 of Cups. It's where people come together, they gather. It's Aquarian, it's matriarchal, it's we the people. Purity prevails. So now let's go to, we're going to go to astrobutterfly.com. And this is, again, we're expanding on Uranus and Gemini, and then we're going to bring in the Neptune and Saturn retrogrades coming up. So on July 7th, 2025, Uranus moves into Gemini. And remember, these energies are arcing out. So while this is weekly wisdom and insights, these energies arc out for sometimes weeks, months, years. So again, whenever you come upon an episode, it's right where you are. It's meeting you right where you are, and you continue. So Uranus only changes signs every 7 years. So this is big, capital B-I-G. Uranus is the last of the big 3, aka the outer planets, to change signs. Last year in November, Pluto left Capricorn and moved into Aquarius. In March 2025, Neptune left Pisces and entered Aries. And now Uranus in Gemini is the final piece in this triad of ingresses. Uranus in Gemini marks a massive shift from yin energy, Capricorn, Pisces, Taurus, to yang energy, Aquarius, Aries, Gemini. This transition is unprecedented and will impact us on all levels: mental, emotional, social, and technological. You get this same unprecedented. This is not business as usual. This is major change. Again, it's what they're showing me is, this shift, from at the time of Master Jesus. There's a reason that they were shifting at that time in humanity from Aries, the ram, to Pisces, the fish. So Master Jesus was known as both the lamb, the ram, and the fisher of men. This bridging. This is now 2,000 plus years forward. We're moving from Pisces to Aquarius. So this is where this epic moment is. So astrobutterfly.com. We don't have to watch the news to realize the world is changing, and it's changing rapidly. We can feel it in our everyday lives. Reality is accelerating at a pace we haven't witnessed before. And this is just the beginning. Pluto, Neptune, and from July 7th, 2025 onwards, Uranus, are simply giving us a taste of what's about to come. But there's much, much more to come. Neptune and Uranus will eventually retrograde in the signs they departed, for one last look back before fully committing to the new era. Turning tables, the end of an era. And then in February 2026, we have the big astrological bang. Now remember, they, the unseen, said this was the cosmic bang, that 2025 is the cosmic bang heard round the world. And here, astrobutterfly.com is speaking to the fact that this, and in February 2026, we have the big astrological bang. The Neptune-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. You may wonder, what has Uranus in Gemini got to do with it? A lot. Not only because Uranus in Gemini is part of the bigger picture that's being painted by the outer planetary shifts, but also because Uranus in Gemini is directly aspecting the Saturn-Neptune Genesis conjunction in February 2026 in the 1st degree of the zodiac. These things are aspecting each other now for when they officially occur in February of 2026. So Uranus and Gemini will have a very important message and role in the story to unfold, and it's all woven into a much larger transformation. This was, and then she goes on, Uranus and Gemini. In the beginning, there was the Word. Gemini is the sign of awareness, information, and knowledge. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's John 1:1. John's gospel equates Word with God, or awareness. Indeed, we became sentient beings when we gained awareness through the word of knowledge. It is believed that the age of Gemini began when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, Gemini. Eating from the tree of knowledge means they developed awareness, hence realizing they were naked. Eating from the tree of knowledge and developing awareness signifies the beginning of a sapient human, capable of thinking, reflecting, and understanding, Gemini. Before the age of Gemini, human consciousness was tribal, not individualistic. It was during the age of Gemini that humans began to perceive reality through the separation of subject and object, the act of witnessing. This Gemini mental process marked the birth of individual human consciousness. We could go as far as to say that the very foundation of what makes us human is rooted in Gemini's awareness. The twins, duality. But if it's awareness that makes us human, what differentiates us from other animals? What happens when we separate awareness and cognition from our body. Can awareness and cognition truly exist apart from our biological form? Can AI develop awareness? Or is awareness something inherently dependent and in our mix of matter and spirit? These are the types of questions that Uranus invites us to explore while in Gemini. We talk a lot about original intelligence versus artificial intelligence. There is nothing that holds a candle to original intelligence. Nothing. Because artificial intelligence is devoid of a soul, of a spirit. It has energy, it's energy, but it is not human, alive, connected to the divine. Everything that is artificial came through original intelligence, came through humans, placed into a computer system that then, yes, can rapidly think or retain or calculate. But it is devoid of soul, of spirit. astrobutterfly.com, we continue. Perhaps a new type of awareness, of consciousness, will be born. All these major changes. Pluto in Aquarius, revolution, industrial revolution, Uranus in Gemini, all the outer planets changing. Perhaps a blinding light, perhaps a new type of awareness of consciousness will be born, especially in connection with the Neptune-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. That's the first sign. It's the starting point of the astrological year. It's like the starting point. So, especially in conjunction with the Neptune-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, which Uranus in Gemini will be sextiling. It's harmoniously aspecting it. This forms a sign 1, birth, sign 3, cognition, connection. Will we be witnessing the emergence of a new form of intelligence or consciousness? We spoke some shows back, Greg Braden and what they were calling the junk DNA or dark DNA, which is divine DNA. It exists within us. It has been dormant. It is not understood scientifically, and yet it exists. It's present. Well, what happens when that consciousness, that DNA, that divine DNA is activated, brought online? It's a game changer. It's a whole other world. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. So, will we find ways to connect with the supercomputer of the cosmos, with the script of the universe? There's an intelligent design to the cosmos. According to the as above, so below principle, just as atoms organize into molecules and stars into galaxies, by following cyclical patterns and fractals, our brains also organize by tapping into pre-existing informational structures. We've talked a lot about there's a whole new world, a whole new operating system. And the old paradigms, the old operating, think of it, Microsoft, MS-DOS, Apple. They're two different operating systems. One, Apple can read Microsoft. Microsoft can't read Apple. So this is what the unseen has been giving us all along. astrobutterfly.com. Our minds are not just neurons firing at random. We're more like antennas, tuned into an invisible layer of information that follows a universal archetypal framework or script that underlies all of existence. Soul source connection, the unseen. Uranus in Gemini marks a new chapter in our relationship with awareness itself. Just as the original age of Gemini gave birth to the witnessing mind, Uranus in Gemini may signal the next leap, the emergence of a new kind of awareness that bridges human, artificial, and cosmic intelligence. Clarity, Uranus in Gemini, it comes in like a wrecking ball. Clarity, a bridge to the past, ... future. And that we have to understand and know and reconcile where we've been in order to know where we're going, and to what we take with us and what we absolutely leave behind. In conclusion, astrobutterfly.com. In this cycle, the word may no longer be limited to spoken language. It may be coded, transmitted, or intuited. We've talked about the rotary engine, where the ego, mind, personality, the soul, and the heart, it's that triangle. A rotary engine is a triangle, and they're integrated. They operate as one. It's not pistons where things are individual and separate from, and thereby you have the expressions of head over heart or mind over matter, or these separated protocols, ways of being. With a Mazda rotary engine, they're unified, they're integrated. So in this cycle, the word may no longer be limited. So God, the word, the light, may no longer, our DNA, may no longer be limited to spoken language. It may be coded, transmitted, or intuited. It may arrive in new forms that connect us with the larger intelligence of the cosmos. We have always been connected. To what degree are we listening? To what degree are we exercising our soul muscles, our soul source connection? To what degree are we going as guided? This is an important, you see how important it is. It's huge. And it's number 4 from the unseen. They said, dramatic and lasting change, advance, a foundational shift. So this is foundational. It's a foundational shift. And here, Astro Butterfly is talking about, in the beginning, there was the word. Number 4 from the unseen was, so dramatic and lasting change, advance, a foundational shift. And there's our beautiful image from many shows ago, this advance, this beautiful, orange and yellow, vibrant, sun-kissed color. And then I started hearing the lyrics and the words to the song by George Cohen. It's from 1917, Over There. And it's over there, send the word over there. And it was a promotional song about World War I, that the Yanks were coming, that the United States was entering the war. Not because they wanted to, with joy and all this stuff, not that anybody wanted to, but it was to protect humanity. It was to overcome evil, overreach. And so there's this dramatic and lasting change, advance. It's a foundational shift. And then this over there, send the word over there. Send the word. The word was with God, and the word was God, a blinding light. So it's foundational. These energies are big and they're foundational. So, and why? It's number 5 from the unseen. It's one of our quotes. Your character is your fate. It's by Heraclitus. And your character is your fate. So again, we all have the opportunity and the ability to alter our character, because everything we do are choices. It's all choices. If we want a different outcome, if we want a different fate, do the works, make the choices, align, release the old, renew. It's very simple. You have to take the steps. We all have to take the steps, because again, our mantra, I am the seeds of change. We are the seeds of change. We are what we're looking for. We just have to get to the higher octave of that. That's where this is. So your character is your fate. And it's 5. It's about change. So if you don't like it, change it. because I am the seeds of change. They're within me. They're within you. Okay, so now let's move to Astrology by Lauren, and this is where she is speaking to the Neptune and Saturn retrogrades that are, so Neptune just went retrograde, Saturn's retrograding on the 13th of July. They're both going to go back to the very last degree of Pisces, finishing up business. And then Uranus later in November will retrograde. So, Astrology by Lauren. Over the next 10 days, both Neptune and then Saturn station for their retrograde phases. Neptune stations on July 4th and will appear to retrograde back through the zodiac into Pisces through December 10th, when it makes its direct station. Saturn stations for its retrograde phase on July 13th, which lasts until November 28th. Planets seem to be even stronger as they station, burrowing in and creating a deeper imprint. Conjunct, meaning together, and barely a degree apart from one another, this year Saturn and Neptune station while so closely entwined, bringing us ever deeper into the vague and ill-defined Saturn-Neptune world of uncertainty and trepidation, and perhaps even sorrow for what may have been. Again, anytime change is involved, anytime we leave an old version of ourselves, we leave a relationship, we move to another city, or we take a new job, there's sorrow, there's melancholy. It's a part of it. In the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. And yet, once we walk through the fire, once we get to the other side, there's that joy and that revelation of what took you so long. Like, why did I wait? Why did I make this so challenging or difficult? Yes, we have to face the fears. But that doesn't mean that there's not greatness on the other side, that beautiful triangle, that triangle of revolution. Know that during the retrograde phases of these two planets, we are all being given an opportunity to confront our own Saturn blocks and Neptunian illusions. That can include whatever fears or trepidations are preventing us from growing and living our own best lives. Ultimately, doing this inner work will allow us to have greater confidence moving forward. We talked about that at the top of the hour. But we cannot do this without confronting the beasts at the door, even the crowd of sorrows. Together, Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries have been asking us to be the co-creators of our own destinies. In the very first degrees of Aries, there is great potential in this conjunction. Neptune inspires us with a vision, vast and hopelessly idealistic. Saturn can indeed bring us the tools that are necessary to manifest that dream. I am the seeds of change. But first, we are needing to return to Pisces with both Saturn and Neptune to remember once again just what that dream was. So we're going back one last time to get very clear. Clarity, a bridge to the past, ... future. We got to know where we've been to know where we're going. So they're going back this one last time to remember once again just what that dream was. And remember, Pisces is the culmination of the entire astrological wheel, the experience. So again, the end of an era, turning tables. So those who have been in power, those that have, thought they had the upper hand and everything, whoop, from disadvantage to advantage. It's turning the tables. Astrology by Lauren continues. Saturn is a planet of boundaries, borders, and the very foundations and supportive structures of our lives. The very structures, institutions, laws, and rules that we have always relied on and assumed would be there to hold us and support us. Neptune has the capacity to dissolve these structures, leaving us floundering and feeling like the ground is shifting, and consequently struggling to find our footing. As a result, the future looks so uncertain, making it very difficult to be able to create plans or know what the next day will even bring. Again, the unseen is taking me back to the Harry Potter series with the mandrakes. We're being taken out of this previous small pot. When the professor pulls up the mandrake, it screeches and screams and wails, and they've got earmuffs on, and I think it's Neville, the character Neville falls over and passes out from the screeching. But what do? They're transplanting them into a larger vessel, a larger container to grow, to ascend, to expand, to evolve. We don't want to keep playing small. We've done that. So in our individual lives and our collective, shared ones, we have completed the Piscean patriarchal era. That pot is over. The matriarchal Aquarian, we the people era pot is much larger, much grander, much bigger. And thus we're being transplanted. So we're struggling to understand. It's discomforting. And the plant, you buy a plant at the store in the pot, you take it home to transplant it into one in a bed or into a larger pot. And what happens? And you kind of break the roots at the bottom, you kind of pull them apart. And what happens? The plant kind of goes, wilts wilts for a few days and whatever. It's adapting. And then what happens? Give it days, a week or whatever. It starts thriving and expanding and growing in ways that it can overgrow that pot. That's what we're talking about here. It's dramatic and lasting change, advance. It's a foundational shift. Your character is your fate. If you don't like it, change it. You have the ability to change it. It is inherent and it's innate within you. There is nothing stopping you because peace beckons, purity prevails. And number 6, before we can finish up with Astrology by Lauren, number 6 from the unseen is they said, beyond patriotism. And I sat with that and they said, so beyond patriotism, the forces of freedom and liberation from tyranny. Patriotism and nationalism, while sometimes used interchangeably, they represent distinct concepts. Patriotism is a love and devotion to one's country, often characterized by a sense of civic duty and a desire for its well-being. Nationalism, on the other hand, is a more intense and potentially exclusionary ideology that emphasizes the nation's superiority and interests, sometimes at the expense of other nations. One could also say at the expense of their own nation or peoples. So the unseen is saying to us, and they said this beyond patriotism, and they were giving me air quotes and this point of, again, are we espousing something, but we're not walking the talk? So the unseen is being very clear about, and it's 6, it's about spirit and service, a blinding light, this watch what happens next. We're moving beyond Neptune, this illusion of things, because it's illusion, delusion, or its highest ideal. Well, beyond, air quotes, patriotism, we're moving beyond that. The forces of freedom and liberation from tyranny. That's why this is all happening. Because this patriot or faux patriotism, we can have pride or something in our nation and so forth. We should. However, when does that patriotism, that pride, when does it become lip service? When do we not really understand what that means? When does it become excessive shadow and become nationalism? It's corrupted. The unseen is very clear. Beyond patriotism, the forces of freedom and liberation from tyranny. So going back to Astrology by Lauren. Saturn is a planet of boundaries. We talked about that, and that it can be challenging to even understand where we are. Living with uncertainty is extremely uncomfortable. So we will fill in the void with our own stories, our imaginations and fears. And it becomes difficult to know what is true and what is the illusion. And so we are needing to get back to the very core essence of not only what the original intention was, but to the very core of our own being. She's talking about getting back to your soul source connection, to your soul, to the divine. And so we are needing, yes, but that part of us that sets the standards for our own moral and spiritual compass, whether that be conscience or that which we call spirit or higher self, or the very source of all. Our future depends on making this connection. And you see how astrobutterfly.com, Astrology by Lauren, they're all speaking consciousness. We're talking about the essence, core essence, the essence. Our future depends on making this connection, this quantum leap, this inverting of where we've been, from patriarchal to matriarchal, Piscean to Aquarian, from ego, mind, personality, human to soul source connection, soul, the divine. Astrology by Lauren continues, when Neptune is retrograde, it is imperative for us to pay attention to this core of our being, especially so if it has been compromised, ignored, overshadowed, and denied. The stations of Neptune and Saturn will make it very difficult to ignore anymore. They will hound us through our conscience. They will visit us in our dreams. At the very least, it will feel as if something extremely important is missing or lost, leaving a void that cannot otherwise be filled. The reason why it is so important to reconnect with this core essence each year is because this is the very essence of humanity. It can be difficult to see things clearly when Neptune is afflicted by Saturn and vice versa. We are prone to seeing what we want to see and ignoring the things that we don't. The lie becomes the truth, and the truth is portrayed as a lie. The only way through this veil is to lean into both Saturn and Neptune during their retrograde and hold to that core essence. Hold to your soul source connection. Hold to the divine in you that can so easily get lost in the shuffle. When Saturn stations, it can often feel as if we're being stopped in our tracks. We come up against obstacles, we are denied and told no. However, Saturn also gives us permission to set our own limits and say no more. If nothing has come, if something has become too much, if we feel that we are at the end of our ropes, this can often be when we decide to retreat or back out of situations that are simply not worth the inner turmoil and aggravation. And it cannot be ignored. That, as both Saturn and Neptune station retrograde together, the importance of feeding our psyches and psychological well-being becomes that much more important. Therefore, anything that is draining you and or blocking your connection to the core essence of your being, your soul, will need to be confronted. So again, this is about emptying the vessel. This is about letting go of the stories, the scripts, the labels, the identities, the people, the places, the things, the mental chatter, whatever form it may take. It's going to hound you until you release it. Align, release, renew. Astrology by Lauren. And rather than denying it or blocking your connection to the sublime, to that spark of divinity within, use Saturn to protect that still small voice that reminds us that we are indeed spiritual beings involved in a human experience. Pay attention to your intuition. Listen to your conscience. Do not ignore it. It may speak to you in whispers and in subtle messages. Saturn's focus and discrimination can then help you to recognize that still small voice in the silence. When Saturn meets Neptune, we are reminded that thoughts and prayers don't always suffice, that real issues require practical and effective solutions. This is about following through on our ideals and looking for ways to put them into application in our everyday lives. Make a commitment to your spiritual ideals. Do not allow these to be compromised. And make a commitment to a spiritual practice. Include practices that are calling you. That can also include mind-body practices that require discipline. But it can also be about finding inspiration in ancient and sacred places and spaces. Learn to speak without having to say anything. It's a powerful thing. We've talked about this in the other shows about the native peoples of India walking up silently against the British Empire, and how the atrocity at that time of the British Empire against these silent not unarmed peoples. It changed, turning tables. It liberated India. So learn to speak without having to say anything. Confront your fears or any resistance to change. Where are you stuck? In what ways are you procrastinating and making excuses? Embrace Saturn. Be more focused. Exercise self-restraint, organization, self-reliance, self-respect, and patience. Perhaps most of all, patience. Patience and perseverance, humility and grace. These are powerful energies. Rome was not built in a day, neither are our lives and the things that matter most. Embrace Neptune, cultivate your imagination, do everyday acts of compassion, honor your ideals, read the cards, throw the coins, scry the tea leaves, walk by the sea. Immerse yourself in the beauty and profundity of nature. Figure out what beauty is, what it is for, and then allow it to change your life. It's about the beauty within. Figure out what beauty is for, and then allow it to change your life. Look at all the beauty within, around. It's so empowering. 7 from the unseen. Seeds of change, accelerated growth. And this has to do with the SABIAN symbol for the moon, and it's also for, yes, it's the moon symbol. So here it is, a 5-year-old child carrying a bag filled with groceries, rising to the occasion when asked to assume social responsibility ahead of one's normal development. We are all children. We are all being asked to rapidly advance. And this is a group performance, and it says this 4th stage symbol, it's foundational, evokes the possibility of meeting a certain type of social opportunity which normally may seem premature. A pattern of accelerated growth can thus be established with both positive and negative aspects. Rushing ahead of one's natural development may be damaging, yet we are living in a particularly dynamic period of man's evolution. This is Dane Rudyard, an astrological mandala. Remember that these are about 100 years old. So imagine that, again, we're being asked, it can feel like we're not ready. It can feel like, but it's imagine a 5-year-old going to the grocery store and shopping and coming back with this, this bag filled with groceries. There's nourishment in the sack. A 5-year-old going to the grocery store, it can be premature. There can be not great outcomes from it. However, it can also bring about profound change and advance, accelerated growth, because the time is demanding it. So we are ready. We're right on time. And there was another one in here. Yes. It's number 2 from the unseen. So this whole, with these Neptune, Saturn retrogrades going on, Gemini, Uranus and Gemini, there's what I heard was the word stillness. And then the lyrics from the Star-Spangled Banner, bombs bursting in air, is what I heard. And then they said, the unseen said, do not get sucked in or succumb, quote, to the illusion. Triumph over it. So again, deconstruction, construction, the dismantling of the old. We could bear witness on the world stage. We already have, we could again. This bombs bursting in air. This stillness and then bombs bursting in air. Do not get sucked into or succumb to the illusion. It's a distraction. It's shock. It's trying to maintain the status quo. It's trying to cleave and cling to power. But there's a turning tables. There is the end of an era. And so while this is certainly, should that occur, it would be patriarchal, shadow aspect of divine masculine and so forth. Do not get sucked into the illusion. Do not succumb to it. Triumph over it. And the unseen made a special point about it, Star-Spangled Banner. A banner is a long strip of cloth bearing a slogan or design, hung in a public place or carried in a demonstration or procession. Because the Star-Spangled Banner, again, what America in its greatest ideal, it is this beautiful image of Columbia. In her highest ideal, America, Columbia, represents liberty, freedom, and justice for all, worldwide. She's this beautiful light, this divine feminine. And so there is this aspect, and we've had these two, and I just want to bring them out. The legends unite. It's about the guardianship and rise of the guardians, and it was peacock medicine and the age of Aquarius. All of these things conspiring for us on our behalf to bring about change, but to seed seeds of change, accelerated growth, to seed within us, to awaken within us this next iteration of humanity, this next iteration of consciousness. What is playing out on the world stage right now is the shadow aspect of it, the deconstruction, the collapsing of the old systems, the old order, the old operating system. What emerges? A bridge. What emerges is that beautiful triangle, and I didn't bring this up before I wanted to, that was going back to etherealculture.com, Juliana McCarthy, the triangle of revolution. And this is the image that she used with this article. Look at this, a person standing on the precipice, which is what they said to us last week. We're on the precipice, and there's this whole other new world. And here's this image with that triangle, and then pair it to this astrological chart that we were speaking of. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, and that mini grand trine, that triangle that says there's a whole other world over here. It's awaiting us. It's calling us. It's beckoning us forward. Do the works now, so that as we all progress, we're there. You arrived. You did the works. And just break it down. Break it into small pieces, manageable pieces. There is nothing about what's going on that you cannot triumph over. Do not get sucked in or succumb to the illusion. Triumph over it. So a lot going on. Just to wrap everything back up, watch what happens next. A blinding light, stillness, bombs bursting in air. If I could turn back time, it's a momentary pause, a clear direction and choice. It's going to become abundantly clear which way to go, what choices to make. Peace beckons, purity prevails. A blinding light. It's dramatic and lasting change, a foundational shift. Your character is your fate. Beyond patriotism, the forces of freedom and liberation from tyranny. And this end of an era. So excited to be with all of you on this journey. Thank you for all of the CC welcome, and thank you for all of, as the family, the beautiful soul family expands and we reach ever greater audiences. Thank you all for being on the journey and for showing up and contributing and your energies. And as the unseen has often said, peace be with you, and we will see you next week.
You've been listening to Dear James Live. Gain intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions, and so much more by tuning in next week and visiting dearjames.com.